Okay, we are live for the 2021 Ciaron Maher Racing Magic Millions preview. Thank you to everyone for joining us out there in internet land. We just wanted to do this. We've obviously had quite a bit of success at the Magics in the last few years. Our two-year-olds are absolutely flying, and the Magic Millions is one of the best events on the calendar. Not only is it good for business, it is good for pleasure as well. So tonight, we're just going to take you behind the scenes, show you what goes into sort of creating a yearlings prep, getting it to the two-year-old races, reveal some secrets, do a bit of a preview of this year's Magic Millions. We've got some special guests, Mark Zara, who rode Merchant Navy, who is a first season sire that everybody is going to have their eyes on. Hannah Matheson, one of the owners from Away Game and Fake Love, who's had a lot of success. So hopefully she can share a secret or two about that. And also Clint Donovan, who's the bloodstock manager from Magic Millions. So alongside that, we've got our team here, Ciaron Maher. Ciaron, we'll start with you. Acrobat brought up our seventh two-year-old win for the season, our fifth individual winner already racked up more than $1.6 million in prize money, and we haven't even gotten to the big ones yet. Ciaron, is this our best crop of two-year-olds?
Well, certainly at this stage, this is our best start to the two-year-old season for sure. We've rolled out a few and we've been able to nail a few big ones. Finishing off with Acrobat last weekend was phenomenal. So it's certainly the best start. So hopefully we can round out the rest of them and nail that elusive golden slipper.
Absolutely. David Eustace, we've seen a lot of our youngsters travel far and wide to win. Melbourne to Sydney, across to Adelaide, up to Queensland. What is it that allows us to sort of travel these youngsters with such success?
I think really it just, it starts from the beginning and the education, right from when they leave Asia and core boys. We, focus on educating them as best we possibly can. And that always includes, traveling down to Caulfield, but then going up to Warwick Farm. So they're used to a long trip very early in their lives. And then when it comes to having to then go to Adelaide or Sydney or down to Victoria from Sydney, and they just take it in their stride and have no issue with it.
Well, it seems to be working well. Gabrielle Nutt, who has joined us this year, has been an excellent acquisition for our team. Gab, you've spent quite a bit of time in the UK and the US on the breeding side of things. What do you think it is that keeps the Australian breeding scene going so strong?
I think on a whole, the Australian racing scene's in a really strong position. We've got over 50 individual races worth $1 million. I know in the US, I think they've got about 28 or 29, and in the UK, there's not even 10. So from the beginning, I think from the racing and prize money, we're just so far in front of the rest of the world. In terms of sales commercially, the yearling sales are really strong. Fillies and mares off the track are really strong. And I think as a general rule, accessibility into racing, it's still a problem. But in Australia, we have so many people involved from syndicates to, people that just come through the website to big owner breeders and everything, in between. I think it's such a fun experience that, we all enjoy loving and going to racing every week.
Absolutely. Will Bourne, our bloodstock manager. Will, a lot of your work obviously goes into before we hit the sales, but the sale itself is a really important part of the process. And like I said before, not only is it great for business and to be able to see the horses in the ring, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great sale. Magic Millions do a great job. There's a lot of theatre to it, but at the same time, if you want to use an analogy, it would be like the NBA draft or the AFL draft. There's a lot of hype and a lot of, what colt's going where or what fillies are going where, who's going to buy that. And it's, there's a bit of theatre to it, if that makes sense. And obviously at the night time, it's great fun as well. Everyone's in the same spot. And, Magic Millions are never short of putting on a drink or a show.
No, they do a fantastic job there, and we'll have a chat with Clint Donovan a little later about that. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk about was just the process before the sale. So much of the work goes into the inspections and all of that. Ciaron, it's been a busy few months preparing for this. When do you start actually looking at yearlings, and why is it important to start early?
Well, Well, yeah, it has been busy, and it's a process we go through every year. We refine it more so every time we do it. But, yeah, we go around to see them sort of around the winter or just after the winter to see them out in the paddock. You see how they are in their raw state, I suppose you would say. And, little things, how they've done, if they've been sick, if they haven't. And then you go around again, as we've done in the last sort of 3 weeks, and you see them under a little bit of pressure, how they react to a little bit of work and feed, and how they are mentally, physically, and how they've grown. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see, and all you're doing is putting together a portfolio on on the individuals themselves, and I suppose you're just putting more and more information and sort of learning about them as you go, leading up to the sale, and then again, you see how they travel up to the sale. There's, as Will touched on, there's a lot of atmosphere at the sale. They're very young, so it's almost like a little race day for them. When they go into the auditorium, it's a little bit of pressure, and you see how they react. So you take all those things into account. Some of the horses are brought out of their stable, sort of. They can be paraded sort of 50 times a day. So the popular ones. So. Yeah, again, you look at them a few times up at the sale and see how they're progressing, and again, you sort of end up developing a profile on the horse, and you try and select the best one, and so far so good.
Yeah, it has been so far so good. Now, you've built a bit of a reputation for buying on type, maybe not always going with the page itself. What are you looking for? If the page doesn't jump out at you, what sort of physical attributes are you looking for in a horse?
Well, you're looking for an athlete. You're looking for him to be well balanced. A lot of people would have heard all the terminology. Well balanced, good mover, good attitude. But if the page, if it looks like a stayer and it's bred to be a speed horse, it's probably not for you or me. So yeah, you sort of the dam has a lot to do with it. But yeah, in the past, buying on type has been very successful for us, and the obvious ones with the big pedigrees are easy to find and are usually well found and come with a hefty price tag. But I really enjoy sort of getting around the studs and like I just touched on, and finding that sort of diamond in the rough, I suppose, the one with the mightn't have the pedigree that you try and make its own pedigree. So there's a few there we've found, I reckon, for this year.
Yeah, we'll get to that a bit later. Gab, your background's been on the other side of the fence, both with Inglis and Atunga. Has there been anything that sort of surprised you about Ciaron and the team's process? I know you've spent a couple of weeks up in the Hunter Valley recently, and again a few months ago. Is there anything that sort of stood out from this side?
Well, I guess like Ciaron just said, we started a couple of months ago. Him and I went up to the Hunter and did our first sort of looks in the paddock when, they're at home, they're natural, they haven't really been stressed yet. And so we made notes, and then seeing them over the past couple of weeks, it's good to see how they've changed and touched on. And I guess, there's horses that are called sales horses. So they're sort of, prepped and ready for the sales. And then I guess what, everyone tries to buy as a racehorse, and Ciaron's obviously done a great job at that historically. And it's trying to, find those racehorses that are going to be sprinters, stayers, milers, anything, from in between. And, the sales horse, the typical, they look great. They've prepped up really well. But, if you want an analogy to say, an actor can look the part, but they necessarily can't actually act. So you need to be able to have the engine underneath, all the aesthetics and everything like that. And I think, from doing this this process of first looks, second looks. By the time, the whole team gets up to the sale, we already would have seen them definitely twice. And then obviously you've got a good few days before the selling even starts to go back and see them again and again and again. And by the time that, Ciaron and Will are bidding on them, you've got a pretty strong idea of what you want and what you need. And so, Ciaron's really good in terms of being forgiving on certain things that as a sales company, sort of, you're quite strict on what you want to include or not include when you're assembling a catalogue. And so, as a trainer, there's certain things that you may forgive or certain things that you just cross off and say, no, I can't have that or whatnot. And so, it's quite an interesting experience from a training sort of standpoint on, the athleticism that you want and sort of where it kind of can come from, not necessarily the typical places.
I suppose sorry, Mikey. You develop. You're trained, over a number of years, and you start to have, there might be certain defaults that you won't forgive in a horse because you've had problems with that type of default in a horse before, or there's might be an offset knee or something like that you can deal with it. As it might be the way you train, it might be the facilities you have to be able to train that type of horse. And like you touched on, they're the ones we sort of focus on, the ones that are people might I suppose pot them because of that, but you can train them and they'll be as good as they can be.
Will, I was talking to you the other day about the data and the analytics that you're sort of researching even before you're looking at these horses. Can you just tell me a little bit about the sort of factors that you're looking at, whether it's strike rates for studs or stallions? What really sort of tips you over in terms of what you want to focus on?
Yeah, look, we do a lot of research, and it's not to rule things out, and you don't, live and die by what you find out, but it's just another tool that helps you, dissect a horse or understand it. And we look at things like, everyone's, puts a big emphasis on the sire, whether they're proven and they'll make a lot more money. But, we look at, whether that broodmare farm, is proven. If they can rear a horse, you look at someone like Gilguy, who has a tremendous record, you're happy to have an extra 2 bids with their brand on it because, they're proven to breed champions. So as a new stallion, like a new farm, you're a little bit hesitant, but you're not going to rule them out. So it's just a tool that you use. We look at a number of stuff, even, statistics on what the sweet spot is for buying. If you look at sort of 2017 below, you're seeing all these stallions and these Group 1 horses. Extreme Choice was making 100 grand, Flying Artie was 40, and Brazen Bow was 80. Even Trapeze Arts was 300. They're not huge prices. But if you go back and look at sort of the last 2 years, King's Legacy was about 1.4, Prague was 1.6, Anders was 670, the Autumn Sun was around 700, Holyfield was 800, Farnham was 500,000. Whether people are getting better or whether it's just a short-term trend, but definitely the high-priced horses, everyone's finding them and they're actually getting results from them. So it's something that we don't ignore. I mean, the other day, off topic a little bit, the other day, Ciaron and I loved the horse in the paddock that we saw was by Lord Canaloa. We didn't steal the horse by no means, but we ended up buying it for 1.5 million, and it was a colt. So we sort of take into consideration what's happened over the last couple of years and know that, well, okay, Ciaron liked it that much. He wasn't so hesitant to pay that much money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we also got a filly by Lord Canaloa as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so we saw 2 of them. That was Southern Hemisphere bred, obviously born in Japan. One was for 500,000 a filly. She'll take a little bit more time. She'll be a really nice, mild, staying 3-year-old kind of, where the other horse is just all muscle, deep girth, big ass on it, and you'll know pretty early with him, he'll go. So Ciaron was quite taken back by him. So I don't know if Kieran's negotiating skills were too good there, but I think Ciaron still thinks it's value at 1.5. But we're just thrilled to get the horse, and we've already started that's just the benefit of Ciaron getting around to the paddocks, that is always on the hop per se, and we take these opportunities and allow the clients to get into these opportunities, I guess.
Well said. Now we are taking questions from the audience. People have already sent some in, but you can comment on the live YouTube as well if you want to get any in. Any question read out, you'll be getting a Christmas hamper from us with some Ciaron Maher Racing merch. First question we've got in is from Jordana Diamond in Victoria. Ciaron, how early do you target a horse for the Magic Millions? And do you prep in advance and set it for that race day due to the prize money? I think I might know the answer to this.
Yeah, you prep it. The preparation starts as soon as you buy the horse. The breaking in process is something that's often overlooked or not put a lot of emphasis on, but that sets up the horse's career, how natural it is. And it's often overlooked. So it starts immediately, and they're prepped. It's just a little bit of pressure, I suppose, put on the horse, and you're just assessing them weekly. And the obvious ones, or your natural running 2-year-olds that are quite early, they're very natural, so they don't really need much training. It's all just about educating them. As Dave touched on before, we travel them quite early. We've got a number of locations which they visit all very early in their soon after they're broken in, and so that sort of sets them up. Your natural ones are your best educated ones. So yeah, pretty well the answer to the question is it starts immediately, and the natural ones are very obvious.
Well, it's a lovely segue into our next segment, which is what happens after the sales. And obviously it's a key part of the process, Ciaron. You just mentioned it is overlooked sometimes, I think, by the general public. But there's really one place that we send, well, mainly one place that we send our youngsters to. That's Adrian Corboy up in Wangaratta, a longtime friend of yours. But Ciaron, why is it that you put so much trust in Adrian? Obviously, he's got the runs on the board, but what is it about his method, and is there sort of similar thoughts into sort of preparing a horse that you guys share?
Well, we grew up together. I think we went to primary school together. We got on very well for one reason or another. Probably got similar demeanours. But no, Adrian's just lived and breathed horses, and his family, his brothers, and everything, their whole life. The term horseman is often thrown around loosely, but they are very much it. He could shoe one, catch a brumby, break it in. The sales horses are usually quite easy, but their system are much the same as our system in the stable. It's very smooth, very seamless, and when they come into our stable for the first time, they're very well schooled, and just very confident horses. So his system he has, and we just had very similar views on educating young horses right from when we sort of kicked off, and it's just sort of grown from there.
David, once they do get out of Adrian's, you can't wait to get your hands on them. Just tell me a little bit about the role that Caulfield and Ballarat stables play in educating the horses and getting them adjusted and used to the racetrack. Or don't. Dave, you with us? We've lost Dave.
Sorry,
There's no internet up in Ballarat.
This is the beauty of going live, people. Dave, tell us a little bit about the role Caulfield and Ballarat plays in educating the youngsters after they've left the Corboys.
Yeah, look, it's crucial. Both places are. They're broken in by Adrian, and we like to then send them straight down to Caulfield for a week, because it's then not so much of a shock to the system when they then step back into the stable off the back of a break, and we're then really looking to try and train them. It's all very well giving them that bit of time. If you give them that time and then they come into Caulfield for the first time when they're ready to be trained, very often they don't handle it straight away. So we just think that basically topping off the braking by actually bringing them down and seeing where they're going to have to work is had a huge effect for the last couple of seasons. So once they've done that, they've had their week, which is very early on. It's be February, March time. They'll after they've been broken, they'll have 4 weeks off as a rule. Come back in April, and they'll go to Ballarat and have a week or two there. Mainly because it's just a nice stepping stone to then going back into, I would say, the sort of helter-skelter of Caulfield. Ballarat's a little bit quieter. We've got a little bit more options there in that we've got an inside bull ring just to get them going for the first couple of days. And then they can head out to a slightly more open ring and then out onto the track. So they have that slightly quieter introduction of back into work, and then down to Caulfield after that. And obviously they've seen Caulfield, they hit their straps straight away, hit the ground running, and we can start doing some pace work with them. And it's not a shock to the system. Very often, any horse that might come into a city stable, just because it is so new and that little bit busy, they might go off their food for a few days. They might not handle horses going in every other direction, but they've seen it. They've been there. They've done that, and they slip straight into the routine. Which really, routine is key. The majority of them, and particularly 2-year-olds, they've got to get into a routine, and if they do that, then you're able to up their workload without it being a shock.
And David, when do you start to get an? Oh, go on, Ciaron.
And Dave, so by the time basically they've got to March or April, they've seen Wangaratta racetrack, which is totally different to Caulfield, and then they've seen Ballarat racetrack. So when you talk about sort of educating your babies without really knowing it, they've seen 3 race courses, 3 different training locations, and they're probably a little bit more advanced than the average.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, the racetracks where they've got to go and do it. Very often, the break is not breaking on a track. Very often, we're hoping that they'll be racing in the track. Like, for instance, a 2-year-old might outside in a stable without multiple locations. It might spend its whole time at Caulfield, say, or Flemington, and then is asked to go up to Warwick Farm, spend 2 nights at Warwick Farm. It's never been there. It might not be handled by staff who know the horse. Got to run the other way. Might have had a reverse gallop once back down in Victoria, whereas our horses have been up to Warwick Farm. Staff up there know exactly what they're like, their nuances, and if they then have to go up there and race, it's not so alien. So I think home track advantage very often for any horse is great, and if they've got 3 homes, then all the better.
Ciaron, Magics have done a great job with the race series leading up to the big 2-year-old race, whether it's the Clockwise Classic at Ballarat or we saw Wyong yesterday. Does that help in sort of preparing these horses to try and get them there for the Saturday? Are you sort of influenced by those earlier races?
Well, they're a good stepping stone. We haven't actually used them 2 races. We've raced horses in them races, but they haven't actually gone all the way through. But it's more just the process, I suppose, and identifying which ones are your early horses, and we probably more so the last couple of years we've tend to have got the obvious horses up to Queensland quite early, just to acclimatise them to the weather, and I think that's probably paid more dividends than them other races along the way. But the series, the Magic Million series races, it's we've got a 4-year-old snup dancer that's heading up there, so it's not only for the 2- and 3-year-olds. It's a series that's sort of providing of the correct ability. they can benefit from them their whole life.
And speaking of the incentives they put on, Dubious ran second in the two-year-old classic, ran 10th in the 3-year-old guineas, but still picked up huge paychecks from that. You just talk a little bit about the ladies bonus and how we've done pretty well there and the opportunity available.
Yeah, well, I was devastated. I thought Dubious had it in the bag, and he was nailed on the line, but obviously the winner was owned by Sheikh Mohammed, and Dubious was owned by a ladies syndicate. So I think for second, he was able to bag about 600 or more thousand for second. So it was very lucrative for him. And then when he went back, they had the bonus for the ladies on the 3-year-old. And although he ran 10th, he was the first ladies syndicate home. So to which my mother was pretty impressed by, and she had a share in Dubious, so she was able to climb up on stage and really enjoy the day. And it's just one of the, I suppose, the added benefits of Magic Millions, and Katie Page and Jerry Harvey just seem to get it right, and it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger each year.
Well, ladies, get in contact with Gab and Will if you want to get involved in that, because they do a great job in incentivizing there. We've got our second question from the audience. This one's come in from Bart Courtney. So Bart, you'll have a Christmas hamper on the way with some Ciaron Maher Racing merch. This one's for Will. Will, what do you think about double crosses? Are they something that you focus on? And if so, what would be the number one double cross?
Double cross is an inbreeding or just a cross in general?
Cross in general.
Well, there's definitely some significant proven crosses. I think, like, if you look at like Piero over Reduced Choice mares, there's I think like 4 Group 1 winners and a heap of stakes winners. So you definitely take notice when there's a Piero walking in front of you out of Reduced Choice mare. Same with the long row line. So you definitely have to take notice of it. There's some pretty significant stats when it comes to it.
Well, I think they were talking about the double cross as in the sometimes inbreeding that you can find in the pedigrees.
Yeah, well, yeah. So you look at stats like that, like say Double Danehill was on the nose for a while. But, as I was talking about data before, there are exceptions. So, I think Farnham was Double Danehill. But statistically overall, if you buy a horse that's got Double Danehill, you're actually halving your chance of having a stakes horse. That's just statistics. But, as you say, horses make eyes out even. You can't, solely focus on that and rule out every Double Danehill horse. But statistically, it says you have to try extra harder.
Very good. Now, due to timing, it is in the middle of the night over in Kentucky at the moment, but we had a chat with Hannah Matheson earlier, and we will play that now.
No audio on that. There's no audio.
I don't know. Okay, apparently we're not getting any audio on that, so that's our first mess up for the evening. That's all right. We'll jump across to the next segment and see if we can get the audio sorted for that, the joys of going live here. We're going to have a little chat about first season sires. And Will, I'm going to start off with you. What has typically been the right ingredient for getting a first season sire right when you're looking at them?
Well, again, there's no rules to racing, everything like that, but a couple of things I look at: the ability for the stallion to win and race pre-Christmas. Schnitzel, Not a Single Doubt, Long Row, Piero, Sebring, all won races pre-Christmas. And just my opinion is the fact that they just have that natural ability to get to the races early, whether they were broken early or not. But they just managed to get there. Like I think Long Row was could have been in a late November or December foal. So you just the ability to get there and be that natural athlete and have those genetics to pass on to their stock seems to go well for them. Another little factor I'll look at is horses having the ability to lead in sprint races here in Australia, as opposed to coming back and getting the suck run. Your Swassies, your Fastnet Rocks, your Exceeding Excels, Not a Single Doubt. So they go to the front and lead and absorb all the pressure and then kick again. Seems to really, seems to be a trade that really works. Even the lesser horses who didn't win Group 1s, you look at I'm Invincible, he used to lead in all his races. When he won his stakes race at Caulfield, he led, absorbed the pressure and kicked. And then when he ran into Group 1 over in Adelaide, he led them up, kicked again and took Black Caviar to run him down. So the ability to lead in sprint races, the high pressure to absorb it and then kick again is a trait that obviously works.
Ciaron, you've been pretty hot with first season sires, quite aggressive actually. What is it? Is it trying to get in there before the market sort of exposes them? What is it about it?
Well, you can. Your proven sires are generally ones you pay more for, obviously, because they're proven. But, I think if you're a strong sire, will sort of stamp their stock and have similar traits to themselves. And you try and look for that, or, horses like that are sort of that strong dominant line. I think it's quite important. And horses that sort of look like they're old man, and also you're adding the stuff that Will just mentioned as well.
Dave, you oversaw Merchant Navy. Obviously, Merchant Navy is going to be getting quite a bit of attention. You oversaw its 3-year-old campaign. Just tell me a little bit about what he was like to train.
To be honest, he was a very straightforward horse. He, had a great attitude. That was probably his biggest strength, was that he handled anything that you threw at him. He was a very laid back horse. And he was, I suppose he was just a colt that didn't take a whole lot of managing, which I think is going to be, if passed down through into his stock, is going to be crucial if he's going to have early runners, because attitude in 2-year-olds is the main, probably the most important thing. They, which we've sort of spoken about the whole way through, is if they've got the brain and are able to handle anything that you need to throw at them, that's a huge advantage. And he was certainly a horse like that. He was very unfazed by anything, and he was a pleasure to be involved with.
Well, he was bred for speed himself, Fastnet Rock, out of a Snippets mare. Are you expecting his progeny to hit the ground running?
Yeah, look, they will hit the ground running. He won't be ridiculously early, though. I think he had his first start in about March. He really came good at 3. He won that stallion making race, the Cornwall, which everyone tries to win these days. Brazen Bow, Zoo Star, Star Witness, Northern Media, they all won the Cornwall. So I don't think he's going to be ridiculously early. They won't be, crazy running horses, but I think that his quality will rise as in the autumn's a 2-year-old.
Gab, you've spent quite a bit of time going around the studs, as we talked about earlier. You've seen some of Merchant Navy's crop. Are there any sort of defining characteristics you're noticing or anything like that?
I think, like as Dave said, then the attitude that we've seen and the temperament so far, they've only been put under a little bit of stress being at home. So it'll be interesting to see what they're like up on the coast. But so far, a lot of the good ones, and most of them in general, were all really well mannered. They didn't play up too much. They were quite responsive to their leaders and handlers. they had good hindquarters, good shoulders, and good girths, and that's where it matters. That's where all the power is, and in the engine room. And so he's stamping some of his stock, which is what you always want to see, and you need that athleticism to really come through, and hopefully we can secure a few of them up on the Gold Coast.
Absolutely. We'd love to see some repeat performances there. I've got another question from the audience. This is an interesting one, Ciaron, because I didn't know the answer to it. This is from Chris Clark. I'm not sure where Chris is, but wherever he is, we'll be getting a Christmas hamper. Many a champion have been found to have an above average heart size. So the question is, can a yearling be tested for a larger heart, or is this just inherent from the dam's ancestors and not detected until they race?
No, they can be tested. It was quite big about 20 years ago. They were called heart scores. And obviously it was well known Farlap had a massive heart. And heart scores were very big. But they sort of phased out. It didn't always equate. There was a lot of emphasis put on it. And a lot of the times it didn't equate to, an exceptional racehorse. So, you can't answer to the question. They can be measured, but it's not often, it was popular, but it sort of has fizzled out for obvious reasons.
All right, that answers that. We've got Clint Donovan ready to go he's the bloodstock manager at Magic Millions. Just seeing if he is there. Let's add him. Clint, have we got you?
Clint.
You've got me, guys.
There he is.
How is everyone?
Yeah.
Hello, Clint.
Hi, everyone. I'm in the fanciest restaurant in Gleadiness at the moment.
McDonald's?
Not sure if you can see the big cow in the background.
Clint, on the road, you've been busy. How's COVID affected your team's preparations for all of this? Obviously, we'll probably see a few less international visitors this year, but how's it affected your team? Do an amazing job up there getting them all ready.
Look, it's, I guess, technology's been forced upon us. It's always been in the background bubbling away, but now things are really progressing. People are adapting to videos, inspecting horses via video, and some stud farms are taking the initiative to do live streams of their yearling parades, and also the utilisation, of course, of bloodstock agents and taking people's word for it from an international point of view. So for the company, the managing director, Barry Bauer, a trip down right when the heat of COVID was on and managed to get back across the Queensland border, but that's another story for another day. But we've managed to sort of duck and weave and get our sales that we had scheduled through, and touch wood, it looks like we're in good shape for the January sale.
So as every year, obviously you get multiple first season sires going around in the Hunter and obviously across Queensland and everywhere. Who are your few picks? Who do you like the most, and what are you thinking? Who's going to do the most damage up there?
I certainly say, I heard you talking about Merchant Navy. I mean, he's obviously close to the heart of the team there. He's left a lot of bone in horses, a lot of engine room. Or you talked about, somebody asked a question about heart score. Like they've all got big, deep girths and lovely shoulders, and I can see them running. Maybe not as early as some, but certainly, they are proper looking horses. That's for sure. Hellbent will sell very well, and a bit of a smoky. A horse that was thereabouts on the track. Didn't quite hit it out of the park at the absolute top level, but Pariah, son of Redute's Choice, he's left some really nice types, and I think they'll attract a fair bit of attention as well.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously part of the whole sales, everything up there, the race days, such a big crucial element of it now. Just tell us a little bit more about the journey that that whole sort of race day has been on, and the initiatives that have popped up over the years.
Gab, I'm really sorry. Can you hit me with that question again?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So obviously the race day is a big part of the there's the whole experience up at Magic Millions, the sales, and combined with it all and the targeting of it. So do you want to just tell us, the journey that it's been on in terms of like its growth in prize money, as well as, all the bonuses that, Katie Page, Harvey and Jerry have, created over the past few years?
Yeah, sure. It's really grown into obviously a massive race day and one of the richest in the world. There are a number of $1 million races, and the quality of horse gets bigger and better every year. Of course, the 2-year-old classic, which the Master Eustace stable are very familiar with, is the flagship of it. We've also got the 3-year-old race and a number of other $1 million races as well. So it's really grown into a huge beast that just attracts a better class of buyer. Therefore, year on year attracts a better class of horse, and what that internally does is with the better class of horse. The top 6 in the Golden Slipper this year were all sold at the Gold Coast Ring in 2019. So that's the sort of flow-on effect that the race day has. But the race day itself, it's a wonderful day, and it's really been the catalyst for the growth of the company. And recent additions, as you mentioned, with the ladies' bonuses or women's bonuses, horses that race only in female ownership. There are 2 $500,000 bonuses to the first female-only horse across the line. So you might run second, you might run fourth. But there's $500,000 to go off for female-only owned horses, which is something we're really, really proud of.
Clint, we've talked about the business of it. It's a fun event, though, isn't it? It's really worth. I mean, if you're sitting on the fence about getting up there this year, and obviously you can't be going overseas at this point, so no excuses. But to anyone out there sitting on the fence about going, what would you say to them?
Clint?
Are we back?
Yeah, yeah. Did you hear the question?
You have to repeat that.
That's all right. This is the joys of live. Clint, I was just saying, we've spoken about the business side of it, but let's talk a bit about the fun of the event. Obviously the sales leading up to the Saturday, but it's a truly world-class event, and with nowhere else to go in the world at this point. I mean, what would you say to somebody who is on the fence about going up there this year?
Sure. Look, I got most of that, Mike. I'm pretty sure we're running with the fun of the Gold Coast and the Gold Coast Sale. Look, I'm really proud to live on the Gold Coast. I grew up in the bush, but now I'm lucky enough to call Gold Coast home, and it's a great place. It's incredible that we have a horse sale there. And I mean, it's cosmopolitan, if you like. It's a little bit grungy. The Gold Coast is the Gold Coast, but it's really maturing now, and we are proud of and just so pumped that we get to have one of the biggest horse sales in the world on the Gold Coast. It's so unique. There's hundreds of restaurants. The beaches are white, they're clean, they're fantastic, and the main thing is it's relaxed and it's a lot of fun. Sure, it's big business, it's serious business, but we like to put off the relaxed vibe and really make sure that everybody that comes to the Gold Coast has a hell of a good time. As mentioned, great bars, great restaurants. We're proud of our ringside dining facilities, and again, you get to see world-class horses. So if anybody out there wants a little restaurant tip, maybe something from a local, just get on to Gab or Will or any of the team, and I'm more than happy to shoot some suggestions out there.
Beautiful. Clint, thank you very much. Yeah, go on.
Clint, sorry, mate. I was just touching on the whole theatre of the Magic Millions, and you're a massive part of that. You're the showman. You're right up there, and I was just wanting to let the audience know, like, it's very exciting that whole process of the actual buying of the horse. You might have a few that you're trying to get, but someone's obviously got a bigger wallet, or they may not. But I suppose it's like almost like winning a race when you're able to purchase one, and I suppose it must be you're there, you're sort of absorbing all that excitement, I suppose, at the helm with the hammer.
Yeah, it's really good fun, and you talk to me on a face-to-face level. I'm not a naturally outward person, but give me a microphone, I feel like Garth Brooks, and I love the thought of a full auditorium and me, controlling the whole thing. That's that really feeds me, and I love the anticipation of it, the excitement of it. My bad.
No, that's all right. You're back now, Clint. Yeah.
Can we hear me?
I suppose I was just touching on the excitement of it all, and if you can get there, it's another journey that you may miss out on. Yes, we all have a great time when we win a race, but just the actual buying of a horse and putting it together and watching it early on, it actually gives you a better sense of fulfillment, I suppose, what I'm touching on when you actually do win a race, and if you're lucky enough to be back there for some of them big riches
absolutely.
back there in January.
See so many people having a hell of a good time high-fiving after they bought a horse, and as you say, you've got your short list of horses, you're sitting around watching the sale, and the anticipation is massive leading into it, and people's body language change because it's such a big deal, and then when you do land one, it's a hell of a rush, no doubt. We see a lot of people really enjoy that part of it, and it's great to see.
Ciaron, do you still get nervous bidding?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. A lot of the times I'm a bit of a subtle bidder actually. I used to I haven't often raised the hand. It's more of a wink or something like that. But if I was raising the hand, a lot of times it would be shaking. I can tell you.
I can attest to that. I've been sitting there having a conversation with you, and they've just knocked down to Ciaron Maher. I was like, you were just bidding during the middle of a conversation, no idea whatsoever. Quite the skill.
Yeah, we're all got our little
missed all
quirks,
that.
Some people are much more animated bidders.
Clint, thank you so much for that. We look forward to seeing you up there. It's a fantastic event. As we said, if you're on the fence about going, just do it. Just got a question from
Thanks,
Stephen.
everyone.
Thank you, mate. We'll see you up there. And to Stephen Spall, who left a comment on the YouTube saying, we will be at the Gold Coast over the Magic Millions. Can we attend the sales? We bought a share with Ciaron's team last year. Stephen, the answer is an emphatic yes. We would love to see you out there. We might take one more question. We've had a couple of issues with two pre-recorded interviews we did with Hannah Matheson and also Mark Zara. So what we might do is just edit this together and put those interviews in at a slightly later date. So we'll take a couple more questions. Shane Fraser's asked a good one on YouTube, actually. Shane said, Ciaron, find a lot of the champion mares don't have as much success in the breeding barn. Is there a reason for this?
Well, as part of the champion mares don't have a lot of feminine traits about them. It's one being a champion mare, but it's another being a champion breeder. Some mares can do it, can do both, but they're very rare. I think, Will, you would have some statistics on stakes performing.
I find it really fascinating the market. So if you get a horse that wins the Derby, I mean, it's worth 200,000, 500,000 as a stallion. You get a mare that wins the Oaks, suddenly they want to pay $3 million for it. I don't get the whole, there's a reason you see the good race fillies that are that produce good stock. It's often away games. Genuine 2-year-olds that race pre-Christmas, the same rules as those stallions. So it really fascinates me that like if Winks had was a stallion, he probably wouldn't be that attractive. He would to a degree. Same as champion horses like Shocking win Melbourne Cups. They're not the most sexiest stallions, but you get a filly that wins a Group 1 over distance, and they're suddenly making more than they would as a stallion. So I find that bit a bit fascinating. But those early speed mares, fillies, that races 2-year-olds, they're really good producers. And it's just the same as stallions.
I think sometimes too, like these champions go to start a lot later than what other mares traditionally do. It's the same as, you know, females as humans. We're supposed to have babies when we're in our 20s, and that's more commonly actually in our 30s and probably 40s. And it's the same with horses. You know, these horses aren't going to stud because they're champions. They're racing. People want to race them. It's fun. It's great. And they're going to stud later, which means, you know, their bones are a little bit more set. You know, they're fully grown, and as you know, you get fat when you get pregnant, and everything's got to move to let everything out. And so it's, you know,
I'm here for the biology lesson. I love it.
That's an absolute.
You boys don't think
That's a great analogy, and I suppose also too, the pool of champion race mares, I suppose, is so small, and there's so much focus on them. You know, if they don't actually do it in the breeding barn, everybody knows about it. So they're probably just as likely to make it as any other good race mare.
Very well answered.
If we're going on Gav's analogy, Ciaron Maher's top 5.
You never know, Dave.
No, that's for sure.
All right, before this descends completely out of control, one thing I do want to have a look at is just a couple of the key markets coming up for both the Magic Millions, the 2-year-old and 3-year-old races, and then the key 2-year-olds that we're getting to, the Blue Diamond and the Golden Slipper, which we're currently dominating the betting. The first one I want to have a look at, though, is the 2-year-old classic for the Magic Millions. Now, it's just Fake Love in there at the moment. Love and Feeling might do something between now and then. Ciaron, how did Fake Love get through her run over the weekend?
Yeah, very well. She's a tough. You know, she's been up very early. She's very neat. She's very well muscled. She's not the biggest. You would say she's very well suited to the Gold Coast. She'll be able to rail like a greyhound, and she's fit and ready to go. She's up there. She's probably our top seed, and she'll be well acclimatized by the time she gets there. So she'll just have to spend a bit of time down the beach sunning herself, and hopefully she's spot on, ready to go for the big day.
Will that be her next race, or will we see her on the track before then?
I'm heading up there on the weekend. Actually, I'm just going to have a look at her and see what the best option for her is. But you know, the Magic Millions is the grand final for her. So you know, if we think she needs another one, we might give it to her. But I'm comfortable where she's at, and you know, certainly before the race, I'll be happy to go straight in. But as I said, I'll assess her over the weekend.
All right, the 3-year-old Guineas, this is one we're very excited about. We're going to get a little preview of this on Saturday between the top two in the market. That is, of course, Away Game, the winner of the 2-year-old Classic last year, who absolutely romped away at a massive price. You're not going to get that price again. Coming up against Isotope, who is won pretty comfortably up there, but we've also got Amish Boy in the race as well. And I know you're quite keen on him, but we'll just start off with the Away Game. We touched on her a bit earlier, obviously well found in the market, tough as nails. Ciaron, she had a little bit of a setback over the spring. We didn't see her, but she's been in training throughout.
Yeah, she has. You know, she's an absolute phenomenal 2-year-old, like we touched on before. You know, that travelling them around. She was able to hit every big 2-year-old race, and then end up racing the older horses in Adelaide. Just before the end of the season. So I was always going to give her a light spring, and then she travelled down to Melbourne. She was in Melbourne, and she just came up with a temperature before the Moya, so we just backed off and just let her tick over. But she's back up in Queensland where she loves it. She's travelled up there and is very well. She's got good form on the wet, and I know it's the weather's been pretty damp up there over the past week. So put it this way, I wouldn't swap her. She's as we've seen, she's a neat little on-speed filly that is probably built for the Gold Coast, but she's probably built for any track really. She's probably shown that. But yeah, I'm confident she'll. Her prep's been aimed to have a spot on for the 3-year-old race, and I think she will be. The race will be interesting on Saturday with Tony Golan. Tony Golan's horse, Isotope. He's a good mate of mine, Tony, and a good bloke. So it'll be good to have a bit of healthy competition, and hopefully we come out on top all the same. And Amish Boy, he was very good in the spring. He finished second in the Danehill down the straight over 1200, and then was placed in the Guineas Prelude over 14. I don't think he's seen the mile out over the in the Guineas, but so this has been a sort of a target for him. He'll kick off next weekend over 1200, and then make his way up to Queensland, and the 1400 should be right in his wheelhouse. So he's a big scopy horse, probably completely different to away game. So hopefully we got both ends of the spectrum covered there.
Hopefully. Now let's have a look at the big ones. And the first one we'll have a look at is, of course, the Blue Diamond. Entha, we haven't seen her since she dominated up in Sydney a couple of months ago now. She's down here in Melbourne at the moment, isn't she, Dave?
Yeah, she's back down in Melbourne, and has been so for sort of 3 weeks or so. And she looks fantastic. We're very, very excited by her. She's obviously took that day really by storm, and looked more impressive than the Colts division, and one start for one for a very impressive win. So great to have a filly of her caliber to target the Blue Diamond, and then hopefully the Golden Slipper. So I think she's a worthy favourite. We haven't seen a horse as impressive as her, I don't think, just yet. And she's got an exciting prep ahead.
Yeah, and if you want an indication of how we're going with the 2-year-olds, you just need to take a look at the top of the market for both the Blue Diamond and the Golden Slipper. 3 of the top 4 or top 5 in the market are from the stable. Sneaky 5, 2 starts, 2 wins. Ciaron, how's she tracking?
Tracking lovely. She's up in Warwick Farm at the moment. She's owned by the Rosemont crew, so they've had a great time of it already with her 2 starts, and been quite lucrative. So she's going to go through the Inglis Millennium. She was obviously bought through the Melbourne Premier sales, so that qualifies her for the $2 million race there. She'll then have another run, and then into the Golden Slipper. So she won't be back down here in Victoria, but trekking along nicely at this stage.
Yes, and obviously we saw Acrobat come out and do the business on the weekend and shoot right to the top of the markets. But here's one, obviously those have already been found. Will, I'm going to throw this one to you. Have we got anything unraced that might just make their way up the market? Something for the punters out there that hasn't seen the track yet, maybe at 100 to 1 or something. Something for the battlers, Will.
What's her name? The honest single out of Seacoal. She's been showing good ability, and she looks speedy and precocious. So wouldn't be surprised if she goes through the grades at some stage during the autumn. And of course, we can't forget about.
What about what? She's
probably,
I was going to say that. What about the one that had a bit to do with the name? Nice for what? Obviously,
yeah,
had the one start.
$21 for the Blue Diamond, probably overs when you think about it.
Will's just doing his best
team. Yeah, a couple of good blokes in the ownership
team. They're a big. Yeah, there is.
And of course, we saw Sunday Yumchar come and run a good third on the weekend for our good friends down at Mahjong as well. So hopefully she's on to bigger and better things. Guys, that'll do us for tonight. As I mentioned, we've had a couple of issues with the audio for interviews we did with Hannah Matheson and Mark Zara, so we will cut that together and piece all of this together. But thank you for bearing with us. Now, we are going to do things a little bit differently this year on the Gold Coast sales. We're going to have a subscriber list where if you sign up, you will get text messages as we buy horses. You'll find out first. You'll be the only people to find out as we buy them. And then, of course, we'll put them on the website towards the end of the day. So we'll send out an email to all our owners and everyone who RSVP to this event. And if you do want to find out how you can get on that list, just get in contact with us, because it's going to be a busy sale. We expect to be very active, and we expect to do some damage. And of course, hopefully buy some things that are coming back in 12 months' time, because that's what it's all about. But guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Ciaron, Gab, Will, David, thank you. And look forward to seeing everyone who can get up there at the Magic Millions.
And thanks to you, Mikey. It was very good, and we'll see everyone up there. Have a great Christmas.
Mikey, just make sure you clip the video and get some Gab quotes from producing. Just flick those on Instagram, can you?
Wait, actually, I did just get a question come through, Will. Funny you mentioned that. From Barksy2 on Instagram. Now, Barksy, you're not going to get a prize for this, but we're definitely getting it away before we go. Do the horses' backs hurt when Will rides them at the beach?
Well, it's actually Will's got a very good record riding at the beach the week of the race. Until the other day when we're in Warwick Farm, and Will had a bit of a mischief and parted company with the Sunday Yumcha. Must have had a little bit too much Yumcha, and off he went.
Well, we'll let Max know that he's not allowed near that horse anymore. That's fine.
Yeah,
guys, thank you for that.
Certainly didn't hurt the dragon. Certainly didn't hurt the dragon before the Cox Plate, though, Will, did it?
No, I mean, he did limp over the line winning, but he still won.
Guys, thanks for that. Get in contact with us if you want to find out how you can stay up to date with what we're buying at the Magics. We'll be sending out an email to the database tomorrow. Until then, enjoy the rest of the time before the Christmas break. Stay safe and enjoy the silly season.